everybody, it's Yu-Gi-Oh! Master 88 here, and welcome to the Spring 2024 Orichalcos Challenge Normal Mode Deck Profile. I just got done making the Easy Mode deck profile not long ago, so I thought, why not? Let's do an update on the Normal Mode difficulty of the Orichalcos Challenge. So, enough of my rambling. What do you all say we get started, shall we? So, basically, as per usual with the normal mode, you pretty much know these cards by now. Orichalcos Shaman and Orichalcos Sorcerer. These two are the headliners of the normal mode difficulty. They've been pretty much part of this particular Orichalcos deck and other variations of my Orichalcos decks for many years. Anyway, for those who are new to seeing Orichalcos Challenge deck profile videos such as this one, I'll let you all in on what these two actually do. So starting with Shaman first, if this card is normal summoned, I can special summon one level 4 or lower Orichalcos monster from my hand or deck. I can shuffle up to 3 cards, different names in my graveyard, back into my deck, then draw 2 cards. I can change this card's level from 1 to 8. I can only control 1 Orichalcos Shaman on the field. I can only use each effect of Orichalcos Shaman once per turn only. So basically, hard once per turn. But he has really balanced effects too. Then we have Orichalcos Sorcerer. If this card is special summoned by the effect of a level 4 or lower Orichalcos monster, you can special summon 1 level 4 or lower Orichalcos monster from your hand or deck. You can target 1 fusion, synchro, or Xyz monster in your graveyard. Return it to the extra deck. You can change this card's out from 1 to 8. If this card is used for a fusion, synchro, or Xyz summon, you can add an Orichalcos card from your deck or graveyard to your hand. You can only control 1 Orichalcos Sorcerer on the field. You can only use each effect of Orichalcos Sorcerer once per turn only. So both of these have really good effects, really good balances, very good checks in their effects to make sure that they're not only powerful, but not too powerful at the same time. Next up, we have Orichalcos Fairy. Now, what Orichalcos Fairy does, and by the way, it's a tuner monster. It's an Orichalcos version of Sunny Pixie, by the way. If this card is sent to the graveyard for the singular summon of a dark attributed monster, I gain 2,000 life points. If I would take effect damage, I can discard this card to make my opponent take that effect damage instead. Then I gain life points equal to the effect damage my opponent took. So it's very good against burn decks. Next up, 1 Orichalcos Priestess. During each of my standby phases, I gain 500 life points for each Orichalcos monster I control. Once per turn only, I can pay 1,000 life points, special summon 1 level 4 or lower Orichalcos monster from my graveyard. However, that monster's effects are negated. I can only control 1 Orichalcos Priestess. So it's basically, she's like the resurrector of my deck. And she helps with life points. Next up, stuff you guys seen in my stuff you've seen in my easy mode deck profile. 2 Kitora, Shunoros, Dexia, Aristoros, Divine Serpent, 1 Gygus, 1 Doom Beetle, 1 Magus, 1 Malevolence, 1 Lord of the Orichalcos Army, 1 Night Beam, and then next we have Orichalcos Searcher. Orichalcos Searcher is basically an Orichalcos version of Jinzo, but he has a completely different effect. If this card is sent to the graveyard, I can add 2 Orichalcos cards from my deck to my hand. So essentially, he's basically a Rhoda, but a really good Rhoda at that. Next up, we got 2 good monsters here, Orichalcos Knight and Orichalcos Dark Knight. Now, here's what they do. If this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, I can pay 500 life points, add 1 Orichalcos card from my graveyard to my hand. So Knight's very good, you know, for getting the Seal of Orichalcos out of my grave and back to my hand. This way I can keep pitching it from my hand to negate certain card effects. Orichalcos Dark Knight, what he does is if this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, I can pay 500 life points, banish that monster. During the end phase of the turn I activated this effect, I can shuffle 1 Orichalcos card from my graveyard into my deck, then draw 1 card. So really good recycling and draw power with him. Next up, Dragoness Orichalcos, just like in normal mode. And then for the final monster of my deck, Triple Darkness Seed. This thing is from Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Season 4. I highly recommend watching Season 4. It is excellent. This monster is one of those monsters that appears in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Season 4. Basically, what Darkness Seed does is essentially if it's sent to the graveyard, I can activate its effect, and if I do, I special summon it during my second standby phase after activation. If this card is special summoned this way, it gains these effects. First, it cannot be destroyed by battle. Second, during each player's end phase, if I have less than 4,000 life points, my life points become 4,000. So say I'm in a pinch and my life points are low, I could send this to the graveyard from either my field or my hand or from my deck if I wanted to. Activate its effect, and then on my second standby phase after activation, this thing comes back with 2 really good abilities. Then, that's pretty much it for the monsters. Here's the spells and traps. So similar to the easy mode, and this stuff I will not go over. If you wanna hear how some of this stuff works, you could check out the easy mode deck profile that will be uploaded today as well. So we have first, Triple Seal of Orichalcos, Dutros, Tritos, 2 Chosen Destinies, and an Orichalcos Eye. But this next card I will go over. Orichalcos Transfer Draw. What Orichalcos Transfer Draw does is I shuffle 1 Orichalcos, Midnight Calling, or Divine Serpent monster from my hand into my deck, then draw 2 cards. This pretty much helps me get dead draws out of my hand, but I get a benefit too. Next up, Triple Calling. What Triple Calling does is this card is always treated as an Orichalcos card, and I can add up to 3 Orichalcos field spells from my deck to my hand. So, 3 copies of any seal I want. Next up, Orichalcos Destroyer. What Orichalcos Destroyer does is I pay 1,000 life points, destroy all cards my opponent controls. I can only activate 1 Orichalcos Destroyer per turn. So essentially this thing is Regeki and Harpy's Feather Duster in 1 card. Next up, Dark Spell Regeneration. This is basically from Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters Battle City. And it's a quick play spell card. Activate only when an opponent's monster declares an attack. I target 1 spell card from either player's graveyard and activate it. But afterwards, I send that card to my opponent's graveyard. I can only use this effect once per turn only. So it's really good and it's really powerful, so I put a hard once per turn on it. And then as per usual, we got Monster Born and Dark Hole. Now for the trap cards. First up, Anti-Orichalcos Detonation Seal. What this does is, I destroy 1 Seal of Orichalcos on the field, ignoring its effects, then destroy all monsters in the field that were affected by the Seal of Orichalcos, and inflict 300 damage to both players' life points equal to the number of monsters that were destroyed by this effect. So say I'm in an Orichalcos mirror match, I can basically activate this, destroy my opponent's Seal of Orichalcos, and then basically detonate the monsters that were affected by the Seal of Orichalcos, and then we both take 300 damage for each of those monsters that were affected. Next up, 2 copies of Rebirth Tablet. This is a card from the final season of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters. What this does is I activate only when a monster I control is destroyed by battle. I special summon 1 monster from my graveyard. Any monster I want. It's really good. Next up, we got Briar Transplant. Basically, what Briar Transplant does is I banish 1 card on the field, and this does not target. So, how do you like that Blue Eyes Chaos Max Dragon? And then the final card, good old Grave Robber, but the anime Grave Robber. I target 1 card in my opponent's graveyard and activate the appropriate effect. If it's a monster, I special summon that monster to my field, ignoring all summoning conditions. If it's a spell or trap card, I activate it on my field, ignoring all activation conditions. So, it's really nice if you want to use certain spell, trap, or monsters. It's just that good. Now we're going to get to the extra deck. So what we got here, just like in easy mode, 2 Orichalcos Gem Dragon. I won't be going over those again. Next up, the rest of the stuff I will go over. We got here 1 copy of Orichalcos Warlock. So what Warlock does is it requires 2 level 4 Orichalcos Spellcaster monsters, which Shaman and Sorcerer are Spellcaster. So they can make this. Once per turn, you can detach material to activate one of the following effects. I can either destroy a card on the field, or I can banish 1 random card from my opponent's hand. So I can either rip a card from your hand, or I can basically detonate a card on the field. So, it's just that simple. Next up, we got Orichalcos Evil Gear. So, similar to Orichalcos Gem Dragon, who's basically a more modernized version of the pre-errata Orichalcos Dragon, this here is a modernized pre-errata version of the pre-errata version of Dark Geargian X that my buddy Tyler Jungerheld, aka Florentine Yu-Gi-Oh, made a long time ago. By the way, I'll be including his YouTube channel in the description bar below, so you can check out his content. He's also an Orichalcos user and a very dear friend of mine. Thank you so much, Tyler. You're awesome. So here's what Orichalcos Evil Gear does. It requires 2 level 4 Orichalcos or machine monsters. This card's name is also always treated as Dark Geargian X. You can detach 1 material from this card to add 1 Orichalcos card or 1 machine monster from your deck to your hand. You can detach 1 material to banish 1 gadget monster from your graveyard to special 1 gadget monster from your hand. You're going to use each effect of Orichalcos Evil Gear once per turn only. You can only control 1 Orichalcos Evil Gear. So it's really good for both Orichalcos and gadget decks. Next up, the main headliner of the extra deck, number 200, Orichalcos Soul Eater. This is basically my avatar and the ace monster of this deck. So, here's what this guy does. He requires 2 level 5 Orichalcos monsters. I'll mention once again, Orichalcos Sorcerer and Orichalcos Shaman can modulate their levels. So, I make them both level 5, they can make this. So, here's what he does. Once per turn, you can detach a material, attach 1 monster on your opponent's side of the field to this card as a material. This card gains 200 attack for each material attached to it. If this card would be destroyed, you can detach 1 material from this card instead. So, really good way of protecting itself, plus it can just snatch a monster. Somewhat similar to Cyber Dragon Infinity. Now, the rest of the stuff is stuff that the next chunk of Xyz monsters you've seen in easy mode. So we got Gachi Gachi Kentetsu, number 17 Leviathan Dragon, Leviar the Sea Dragon, and number 20 Giga Brilliant. So next up, we have number 49 Fortune Tune. This is the last Xyz monster in my deck. It's only in here for recurring life points. That's basically all it's good for. And now we get to the final cards of my extra deck here. One copy of Orichalcos King. This is my main synchro monster of my deck. So essentially, it requires one Orichalcos tuner plus one or more non-tuners, which Orichalcos Fairy is a tuner. Once per turn, you can banish one card your opponent controls. It cannot attack the turn that this effect is activated. If this card destroys an opponent's monster, banish it instead. If this card is destroyed, I gain 1,000 life points. So it's good for banishment, mainly. Just getting rid of pesky cards that would get in the way. Now we have basically staples of this deck. One Black Rose Dragon, one Stardust Dragon, one Catastor, and one Clearwing Synchro Dragon to round up the extra deck. So there you go, folks. That is the Orichalcos Challenge Normal Mode Deck Profile. I hope you all enjoyed this. It's taken me a little bit of time to essentially get this version up to snuff, but it's pretty much done for now. I do have plans to make minor adjustments over time to some of the effect text, but other than that, it's not going to be really anything major that will require a new deck profile. Just some like sentence restructuring mainly. But anyway, just like before, just like in the easy mode deck profile, I will link in the description bar below the rules to the Orichalcos challenge and basically how you can contact me if you want to take the Orichalcos challenge for yourself to see how your deck holds up against the Orichalcos. Once again, if you want to contact me about the Orichalcos challenge, you can find me on Discord. I'm Yugioh Master 88. So once again, if you want to take the Orichalcos challenge, contact me on Discord. I'm Yugioh Master 88. Or if you just want to talk Yu-Gi-Oh in general, have some duels, hang out, whatever. Once again, I'm on Discord. I'm Yu-Gi-Oh Master 88. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this deck profile. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did, and until next time, this is Yu-Gi-Oh Master 88 saying see you later.